And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It's a Wednesday afternoon. It's 2:30 p.m. and you're watching Innovation Fika with me, Donny from KTH, Stockholm, Sweden. As you know, I go live every Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. with my Innovation Fika, the innovation coffee break, where I get to interview incredible people about incredible ideas and also come with some really, really good key learnings and incredible tips for everybody out there. Everything that is broadcast here is also recorded and saved on YouTube, so you can check me out on YouTube as well. The 77 episodes so far are there, and today, episode 78 of my Innovation Fika will be there soon enough as well. This is also broadcast on YouTube. It's broadcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and also TikTok today to all of the thousands of people on TikTok who, well, haven't yet discovered this, but they will. Don't worry about that. And I'm really, really happy to invite today's guest to episode 78, Rohit Agarwal. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing pretty well.
You're doing pretty well. That's fantastic. And today we're going to talk about pivoting and making it work and innovation, both helping others innovate, but also innovating for yourself, because I know for a fact that is what you've been doing. Before I let you in to tell us about who you are, just a word for everybody out there. Make sure to comment in the feed, ask questions in the feed. We will pick them up as we go along. But let's get on with the show. We only have 30 minutes. It's the world's fastest half an hour Innovation Fika with me, Donny. So, Rohit, we always start by me asking the guest, who are you and what do you do? So, who are you and what do you do?
Right. So I'm an innovation consultant working with helping organizations become more innovative and becoming more creative. So that is what we initially started with. And then we added one more offering to our whole portfolio, which is kind of our main offering today, and which is developing courses and e-learnings for other people who want to go out there and put their learnings to the world.
Okay, so like the middle layer between them and the world then. So you help them get to a point where they can give their courses.
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
so
cool.
So setting up everything, people are busy, they don't have enough resources, or they just don't feel like doing it themselves. And that's where we come in and we create everything for them.
That sounds like I could be your client there as well. So we can talk about that afterwards. Let's see. Hey, Carla. Wonderful seeing people online. Everybody else, say hi and who you are and get the whole discussion going here. We're all friends. We can also do this as well and say hi to Rohit and say, here we go, Rohit, you're there. And the company you are running is First Loop.
Yes.
TheFirstLoop.com. And now to today's sort of subject then, because I know for a fact that you started this company in 2020 and everybody knows what was going on or what happened in 2020. And you were like sort of, okay, let's start a company. And that wasn't sort of like super easy. So I know that you've been like through some pivoting, but what were some big challenges that you were faced with right off the bat when you decided to start something there in 2020?
Right. So when we started the company, it was one of the major challenges was getting clients.
Yeah.
I knew like we could sit all day, like create stuff, but then the main challenge would be go out and find people that'll pay for the services. And also it was in the middle of the pandemic. There was like dearth of clients, big companies were going bankrupt. And I was like, okay, what do we do here? But then one of the motivation was I'm starting from zero. So I don't have anything to lose.
Of course.
Going super lean, the losses could be minimal. And so that is how like it was like, let's just go for it. And then I had my background in innovation management from my master's, and I'd worked for a conference company where I was like putting together conferences for different executives in different industries. And I was like, why don't we combine both and start delivering trainings to organizations? And one of the things with pandemic was there was a lot of uncertainty. And we were like, how do you reduce uncertainty? And that's by knowing what can happen in the future and planning for it. So there's techniques like scenario planning that we started talking to people about. There was like workshops where it was like, how do you get your employees to be more efficient and more effective? So we put together all of these in our services brochure. Like, okay, these are the workshops we deliver, and started sending them out to people. Getting in touch with like my old contacts on LinkedIn, chatting with them, trying to get some clients out of them, which was like a long process, but it eventually like was fruitful. And then we registered on different freelancing platforms. Like Upwork was one of the major platforms that got us a lot of clients. And
and this is, I mean, okay, so you're just running through it and you sound really sort of, matter of factly, but it's so interesting to hear how you not only, I mean, you were faced with the pandemic and you were in a larger company than yours, were going bankrupt. And a lot of people who had a lot to lose might have not been able to pivot the same way you did. You had nothing to lose, and you actually used the pandemic to try and figure out, well, what can we sell now? I mean, what are people actually looking for now? I think that's lesson sort of number one. And then number two, also, which I will also stress, is your, going out and finding the paying client. Because as you very matter of factly just sort of run through, you did quite a lot of work on LinkedIn, and you actually worked with your contacts there, and that eventually gave fruit, and it gave you clients. But you also registered on the different freelancer platforms, and that is, I think, is something which is not only underrated, but sometimes forgotten, that we as startups with an offering, we can actually register on a freelancer platform and offer what we do. I mean, most of us, I have used, Upwork, people per hour, Fiverr, whatever you call them. I use them because I want to find freelancers. So why don't we use them ourselves? That's another thing. And is that where you got your first paying client?
Yes. So our first paying client was from Upwork, and that was like, get the ball rolling. And then like after a couple of weeks, it was a client from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, once I think it works like this, like the universe is like, all right, man, let's pay you a bit. And then everybody else is like, okay, here's some.
Yeah, but that's great. But also, success leads to success. And once you, start getting up on that wave and you start surfing, it becomes easier. I think the hardest thing is usually when you are in that situation and you have an idea of what you want to do and you have no clients and you need to get the first paying client in. Okay, it sounds like a stupid sports question here after the game, but how did it feel when you got that first actually paying client in?
Right. So I think I was like feeling overwhelmed. I was like, all right, okay, making calculations, like how much taxes do I have to pay? How much can I actually take home? So that was like for 15-20 minutes. And then I went out with some friends. One of us who's joined us today as well, Carla. So we went out to a pub and we were like, okay, let's celebrate this.
Of course.
It was like, whatever, we have a first client, let's celebrate. That was the thing, like first figure out how much taxes to pay and then go out and party.
But that's good. Celebrate your successes. And that's actually, I know this is one of my pet peeves as well, because I think we should celebrate when we get the paying clients in, and that actually proves that, the business that we are set out to do works. I mean, no offense to any startups out there, but there's this tendency of always, you celebrate when you raise money or when you've gotten money in. But to be honest, raising money isn't a client. That's somebody that actually owns part of your company. You've given away part of your baby. It's a very expensive bank loan. So the paying client, well done. It's such an incredible feeling when you actually, and it's a proof as well that what you do is worth paying for. So what else did you sort of learn during this sort of journey of pivoting and trying to make it work and everything?
Right. So the first 6 months were very crucial. It's like waking up every day was like, oh man, should I do this? Am I cut out for this? Am I going to get something today? And then preparing a lot of different kinds of brochures, and then just sending them out to people being like, hey, can you give me some feedback on that? So a lot of people gave me really good feedback. They were like, okay, you're using green and red as your brand colors, but then red shows negative. And it seems like in your brochure, you have mixed it up. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a designer. So you take the feedback, you put together something more beautiful. So we have 5 or 6 iterations of our initial offerings brochure. I've used the final iteration yet, just little edits to it. But that was the process. And then approaching a lot of people, asking for meetings. I started meetings where people have tried to give me coaching. I'm like, yeah, thank you, but I need clients. I don't need coaching right now. Especially you are in my client funnel. You're not in my coaching funnel.
Yeah.
But showing up and just being there, okay, we have a company, we're here, we can help you.
Again, just picking some key pointers here. I know that Woody Allen once said that 80% of success is showing up.
Yeah.
Just, getting up every day, getting back at it, and not giving up, but, showing up and doing it and putting yourself out there to show that I'm here. And I remember when I started my first company way back, we used to go to, all of these trade fairs, and it was like sort of when you've been to a trade fair once or twice, first time it's like just the first meeting, somebody meets you once and you're just one in one in the crowd. Second time you're at a trade fair, you meet them again, they go, he's back. And the third time, established, it's like sort of you're out there, you're consistent, that's one thing. And you said, so put yourself out there, get back at it. Another thing that you also mentioned, I'm sorry for filling in your words here, but something that not so many others do is you actually constantly looked for feedback in what you were trying to offer, the brochures, the sales pitch. And I know you phoned me as well. I remember that. We had a conversation as well. And that is also invaluable. Go out there, put your material out there and ask for feedback and use the feedback and iterate with the feedback forward. That is, again, another super good lesson, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's of course a good lesson, and it's also like what First Loop stands for.
Yeah.
We call ourselves First Loop because we believe like innovation happens in loops.
Yeah.
And we want to get companies or like individuals started on the first loop of their innovation journey.
And what is the first loop then? What do you mean? Well, just to explain that.
Right. So how we call the loop, the workshop that we have, it's a combination of design thinking and lean startup process. Mm-hmm. It's nothing we invented, but we just took what's already there and tried to improve upon. For example, in design thinking, the prototyping stage is very vague. So you can like empathize, you can ideate, you can, but then you're like, what do I prototype? Like once you're built, and there lean startup comes in, because in lean startup they talk about you build something, you measure what happens with it, and then you learn, and either you like pivot or you persevere.
Yeah.
So we combine the both, and we call them the loop, which is one of our main offerings. And then we like customize it, like what element does a particular company need.
So if we were going to if we were going to give the audience then the short version of how they can, well, apart from phoning you of course, which is a very good way of becoming more innovative, but how would you, if you can give some tips to the audience, sort of, this is a very, very simple tip of how you can, as a company, a small organization or a large one, just iterate and become more innovative. What would you say then?
Right. So the first step would be to like empower the team. Most of the times it's like the CEOs or the bosses in the room who have all of the ideas, and the team is pretty quiet. They're most of the times afraid to pitch in their ideas. And then when I have come into workshops, what I do is I ask them like, all right, here, there's no CEO, there's no like managers, there's nothing. Everyone can come up with their ideas. And I think one of the tips is brainwriting when you're in team session. So you write down your ideas first and then discuss it, because then you can like go around everyone and hear what their ideas are. So start with like simple techniques like empower your people, use simple techniques like brain writing, rather than like brainstorming where the loudest one gets their ideas out always. The third thing would be to like allocate enough budget to try as many ideas as you can. Like find what's the pain point with a particular idea, where can it fail? And then you just go out, prototype and test that. So those are the three tips I would say for companies to like get started.
And I would say, from my experience, I'd say that tip number 3 is something that they kind of forget about, or they want to disregard, because they say, well, let's have this creative thing and let's call in some consultants, or let's do it ourselves. And they might do brainstorming or brainwriting or whatever creative thing they do to get ideas and everything like that. And then they get lots of ideas, but nobody has really talked about, and then what? How do we actually move forward? The allocation of time and money as resources to move things from the idea stage and try them as well is something that I think a lot of companies struggle with, because they forget about, that part of the whole process, which is probably one of the most important parts of the process, is the implementation.
Yeah. So we don't work so much with like the complete implementation. But then it's like once you've proven your idea, you just like run with it and you try to get like as much of it as you can like get.
And how do you suggest people prove their ideas?
One of the things would be to like see what's the simplest prototype that you can build. Of course, there's the whole MVP principle from the Lean Startup by Eric Rice. So you can use that method, which like works most of the time. So you figure out what the pain points are with this idea, and then you try to prototype and test them out.
And and you feel that you've sort of lived as you learn, and you sort of have you sort of applied all of this to yourself going forward in your process?
Right. So yeah, we have done that. Like we have tried to put up a lot of LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
We have tried to like create some videos and test them out for our marketing. And then when we work with our clients, we like give them examples from what we have done, doing the process ourselves. For example, initially we started with just like delivering our own workshops, right? And then I went on Upwork and I registered as like, workshop coach, innovation facilitator and everything. And then I realized there's a lot of courses which are about, there are a lot of job posts about course development. And I was like, let's try hitting on some of these and see what happens. Because if I'm developing courses for myself, I can develop courses for others. And then, so that was like one of the pivots we took because we got a first client for course development. It was like, okay, that's a service we can provide. And then I was like, what do I need for that? And I'm like, I need a basic background in instructional design. So you go to YouTube, you go to Reddit, you find communities, you find people who do that and see how they do it, learn and optimize like along the way. There are like so many softwares I learned during this process with like Articulate 360. There's like different LMSs like Thinkific, Matrix.
Yeah.
One of the funny things, like one of my clients were like, can you set up Matrix LMS for us? And I'm like, no, I don't know how to use Matrix, but I'm sure I can figure it out. And the example I gave them was there's like Android. Now you can have it on a Samsung phone and it's a bit optimized there. And you can have it on a Motorola phone where it's differently optimized there, but it's the same thing at its core. So if I know how to set up an LMS, I can set up that LMS for you as well.
Yeah. That's a very good analogy as well. I mean, obviously it worked for that client.
Yeah.
But you said something there which was interesting because you found a bunch of needs that you decided to address. And did you, I mean, where did you find those? Where did you find the needs? When you said you found the coaching, you said coaching training there. Where did you find those?
Sorry.
No, you said you found the need. You saw lots of postings for coaching training.
Right. So that was on Upwork.
That was on Upwork. Yeah. Okay.
So when you're trying to like find jobs for facilitators, or for workshop consultants, those are similar jobs that will pop up.
Okay. So well, that makes all the sense in the world, of course. I mean, have a look as well what works.
Yeah.
And then try and adhere to that. Now, how much did you sort of stay true to your sort of original idea? And how much have you sort of pivoted away, or have you stayed in the same sort of, the same?
Right. So right now, I would say like the original idea, we do it like 30%.
Yeah.
And then the pivoted idea of course development, we do it 70%. So we have like one large client that keeps coming back to us every year.
Yeah.
And then we have like a few smaller clients that we deliver workshops for. We understand what their needs are, create the trainings and deliver them. And then for 70%, we are going with like, course development services.
And where do you see this going forward? What's the coming year or 2 years or 3 years going on now forward for First Loop?
So the coming 2-3 years, it's like, okay, we have started up. We have some revenue flowing in. We have the business going. A few people know us. And probably after today, a lot more people will know us. So that's the start for now. But then the next is the growth phase, which is a very challenging phase.
Yeah.
It is like where most companies, either they collapse, they just remain a small business, or they can grow big. So we are not going to collapse. So either we stay the same size for the coming next few years and see if there are other ideas that we can implement in parallel and build a bigger business, or we grow. And it would all depend on like marketing and like how do we get our own word out.
Yeah.
Because I could stand here and tell everyone like, all right, go make a video and post it. Like you started the whole thing, but then we have to do it ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And it depends on what results we get with that.
Well, I mean, this is good because, I mean, you're actually living a bit as you learn as well, because you're talking about trying things and pivoting as you learn, but just kind of staying true to your sort of original sort of core, but then sort of, looking for things along the way that sort of work. And again, I'm really impressed with your sort of your perseverance and your, the go get mentality of actually getting the paying clients in. And that's something that we all need to learn from as early stage entrepreneurs. It's because I meet too many people who they get stuck in the fundraising loop, where sort of, I need to raise the money. And I'm going, for what? Well, to do the marketing. And for what? Well, then to get the clients. Yeah, but why don't you get clients first that pay you money, and then you can start the cycle. And once you're successful, don't worry, the money will come, either from the clients or from somebody else who will, want to invest in you. but try and get over the threshold yourself, before, and don't get stuck in the funding loop. That is so many entrepreneurs that get stuck there. I'd say that. And so very well done for not getting stuck in the funding loop. So
I mean, it's also like with a small business.
Yeah,
it is sometimes like you cannot actually get funded. Like if I go to a VC, they'll be like, are you going to grow like 300x? And I'm like, I don't know, we'll be like a large management consulting firm. Is that 300x? Probably they'll say no. And so it was like, okay, you can also go for like small loans. Probably like Almi or these companies are good to get, these institutions are good to get like small business loans. And yeah, of course, as you said, like getting a paying customer is one of the most valuable things. You could just go out and be like, do you want to be like an internal champion and help us build out the product?
Yeah.
And in the long run, they can become paying customers.
Yeah.
It's like probably you tried a lot of new softwares while you were building the whole Innovation Fika series. And probably now you are paying customers for some of the applications.
I'm paying for this one.
So the process can simply flow like that. Get some initial customers, get them to pay a bit, and then they will probably pay you more in the future. And
that's again something really good examples, and again some really key learnings for all entrepreneurs. We're coming to the end of this world's fastest half an hour, and as we all know, we always end with the guests giving us their top 3 tips for whatever we've been talking about. And today Rohit is going to give us his top 3 tips of how to make it work as an entrepreneur. And tip number 1, which we will talk about and elaborate, is keep showing up every day.
Yeah, so it's keep showing up, keep talking to potential clients. It might appear like, okay, it's all about sales, but it's all about value. So you try to understand what their problems are. My client calls, I speak like for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I just keep asking them questions. It's like, okay, you will explore more. Either like they will explore more as well. And then they are like, okay, it's somebody who wants to understand what we want to do. So if you show up every day, talk to your clients, understand them, try to get them value, it always works.
Yeah. Showing up, consistency.
Yeah.
Being there, putting yourself out there. Thank you. Tip number 2, try different things and see what works.
Right. So, I mean, for First Loop, we have like tried so many things. We were like, okay, we are going to deliver trainings. Yeah, it worked, but it did not work as much as we expected. And then it was like, we'll do course development services. So it's like, we tried a lot of different things. There are like a lot of failed ideas that I've had in the past before First Loop. And probably First Loop is the first decently successful company that I have. So it's like, if you try different things, something will click. Even though you might not feel like, okay, this is my passion, this is my niche. Just like show up every day, try something different and see what happens, what the result is.
Yeah, but again, it's also being sort of open for the, you talked about it before when you were talking about when you started out and you had all of this sales material. And it wasn't just that you tried to repeat the same message and hoping that it would start working, but you actually put it out there and you asked for feedback. And as you refined it and pivoted as you went forward, which in the end also led to it actually starting to work. Let's see, we're getting a comment here. Sami here, great tip, show up every day. Indeed. And Sami actually here is on, this is Sami's Olympic gold medal on LinkedIn, because Sami is a really master connector on LinkedIn as well. And I think Sami, you're living that one totally yourself as well. And tip number 3 is say yes to things close to your domain.
Right. I think that's more of a personal growth thing, wherein you might feel like, okay, I am just a workshop facilitator. How can I say yes to developing workshops or materials for others? It's like, yes, you can do it. You need to just like burn the midnight oil and like learn, work, like try to learn what you need for that. Today is very easy. You go to Reddit. If you want to learn coding, you can just join a few communities on coding, and probably you'll learn much more than like being 4 years at school or something. So you learn a lot from other people. And one of the things with Reddit is like, if you need answer to something, just make another account and post a wrong answer. And then somebody will try to correct you and teach you a lot in the process.
Of course, everybody wants to correct the wrong answer. That's the secret tip there from Rohit. Yes, that's also a very, very good thing. Let's see you coming in here. Carla, what's the most difficult thing you had to do to keep first loop running? Good question, Carla.
One of the most difficult things would be like just not to give up in the early phases. There were mornings when it was like, I don't want to get out of bed today and go do this. It was like, am I even fit for this? You are hit with like imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah,
so often, and you're like, So I think like that was the most difficult thing, like putting myself through the first 6 months, and then once you have clients, you're like, okay, there's somebody out there who needs me, so then it works. But that, getting up like for the first 6 months and showing up to work was one of the most difficult things.
Well done. I know that's a hard thing, and the whole imposter syndrome thing is, why should I and how can I and will anybody want to do? I know it's a very, very typical thing. 3 excellent tips there. Thank you so much. If there's any other comments from the people out there, please let us know. If nothing else, I will say this has been Rohit Agarwal from, I'll put the web domain as well, from thefirstloop.com or firstloop.com. And reach out to You're Accessible on LinkedIn, webpage, email, whatever, if people want to just talk and be inspired as well by this guy that has actually started a company during the pandemic and made it work, getting out of bed every day, consistently showing up, and also being open for the feedback he gets back from all of his network around, and has pivoted and worked his way forward to the paying clients, which is the magic of the core of business. So thank you so very much for being here today. And thank you, everybody online. And I'll see you next Wednesday. But this recording will be uploaded, recorded and cut and uploaded on YouTube as well. So check it out there. If you know anybody who should see it, send them to YouTube. If nothing else, I'll say thank you for today. Thank you so much, Rohit.
Thank you, Donnie, for having me.
Wonderful to have you. And I'll see you all again next Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. Innovation Fika. You know where to find us. LinkedIn and all the other channels. Innovation Fika with Donnie, 2:30 p.m. Wednesday afternoons. Bye for now. Bye.